Good afternoon or good evening, everybody, depending on where you are watching me and what time it is where you are in the world. This is the Roaming Prepper channel. I'm your host, Pete. Today, I want to go through a situation that occurred in Texas that is actually a scenario with a few solutions to it. What am I talking about? I'll be right back and we can talk about what it is that happened in Texas and why we should be cognizant of these situations. All right, welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining me once again. I'm your host, Pete, and this is the Roaming Prepper channel. Now, today, this is a cybersecurity issue that actually became a good learning experience. So, apparently, there were multiple cities in the state of Texas, towns really, uh, that experienced cyber attacks on the water, electrical, and other infrastructure. One town in particular, as reported by the newspaper Texas Standard, as well as the Daily Mail and a few others, the water system was corrupted to such a point that those big vats, the tanks, the flocculant tank, those of you familiar with it, as well as the clean water tank, actually overflowed and then flooded parts of not only the facility but flooded parts of the town before they could get it under control. Now, in a smaller town, if the engineer or whoever the supervisor is lives in the town, it's a 10-minute drive. He or she can start shutting things off and they can try to mitigate the damage. But this is the first time in a very long time that there was a hack that overtook a infrastructure system. Now, you remember the pipeline hack back during COVID, I think it was 2020, 2021, where they shut down the gas pipeline. The difference is in that hack, they actually asked for a ransom. They said, "Oh, we'll release it, but you got to give us, $1 million, $1 million." But in this case, they didn't ask for anything. And that concerned the hell out of Homeland Texas, the Texas State Homeland Board, because in their opinion, what that was they were not interested in getting money. They were not interested in making a political statement. They were testing to see if they could manipulate an infrastructure system like the water plant to actually do physical damage to its surrounding town or area. And that is something that should be all over to the news, but it is not. And I'm pretty sure the reason it's not even on social media, TikTok, Instagram. If you search for it, you can find it, but it's not coming up on feeds unless you actively look for it. This is a scenario that could really play out badly. Um, because think about it, granted, it was a town in Texas. Imagine if it was New York City and you screw up the water supply system and wind up overpressuring the pipes and blowing up the pipes. The pipes then flood the subways. Well, now you have, half a million people going to and from in those subways in New York who are now suddenly flooded in the tunnels and the power's out. And now the apartments above don't have water. And you can see how quickly this can go sideways. People without water, especially in an apartment, you have a septic system in your country house. That's great. You live out in the country like I do. You can still flush. The water treatment plant can be run while it's offline, but can they do that in the big cities? Probably not. And so that's concerning. So, what do we get from this? What is our takeaway from this particular scenario? Obviously, unless you're a cybersecurity expert, preventing the hacking of your local water plant is not something you can do. What you can do, however, is appropriately understand what amount of water you need for, say, a month. Now, what's funny, this happened while I was on a business trip. My wife's the one who got the info. Sassy started looking up, found a water calculator. She found a few calculators online and calculated how much water we would need, fresh water for drinking for 1 month, to include the two of us as well as pets. Then she added in a extra person and a half, and then she went out and started buying extra 5-gallon water bottles. We picked up some extra water cubes, and this morning a what do you excuse me, that bathtub buddy, whatever it's called. You know what it, that big bladder that you fill in your tub showed up. Um, so you have to factor in a few things. Now, I've talked about this extensively before. A lot of other channels have. Pretty much take your pick. They all do. If they're paying attention, this is something that's on a preparedness radar. So obviously, drinking. Also, you have dehydrated foods like the Ready Wise and the Nutrient Survivals, the Mountain House, Augustin Farms, that kind of stuff. You will need to have a enough water to rehydrate those foods to cook with. You'll also need water for hygiene and water for the toilet to try to flush. If you can't flush, you'll at least need water for cleansing, like, basically take a spaghetti pot bath. You put a bunch of tap water in a pot, you get a solo cup, you stand in the shower and you throw water on yourself, get wet, soap yourself, and then rinse yourself off with more cups of water. Make sure you factor all of those in. It's very deceiving because people get 3 or 4 cases of bottled water and they're like, I have water. And yeah, you do. But when you start doing the cooking, the cleaning, the washing, all this other stuff, you start running out of water very quickly, especially if you have pets or you have animals. You also have to factor in storage time and space, right? Space is a resource. Time is a resource. You need to make sure you do this in a smart way. It doesn't screw up your budget, but it also also have enough room to store all this stuff. So keep those things in mind. Again, drinking, sanitation and hygiene, cooking, pets, and any other miscellaneous uses of water. I'd also recommend you have some uh, picnic gear like paper plates, paper bowls, disposable stuff. Now, granted, the trade off is you will make more trash. The flip side is you will use less water because you're not going to wash disposable plates typically. Sometimes you do those bougie ones, but normally no, you throw it away. So remember, you want to prep for options and you want to make sure you have enough to cover all these things we just don't think about because when you go to the toilet, you don't open a bottle, you just hit the button that flushes away until that stops working. Then you have a problem. So, anyway, that's it for this one, ladies and gentlemen. Just some things to think about. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you'd like to share, I appreciate that as always. I'll put some links in the comments of the video as far as the water bob, the bladder, and a few other items for water preps that you may want to look at. But as always, I'll put this disclaimer: make sure you check local prices and check other sources, not just my links. You may get a better deal, and I'm okay with that. In any case, God bless, Godspeed. We will see you on the next video. Keep out of trouble out there, and I'm looking forward to seeing you on the next one. Bye.